Hi friends, it's Auntie Cuckoo, and today we're doing a very versatile DIY. So I know you guys have been wanting more DIYs. This is something very practical. It's something that I needed to make. I'm sharing it with you, and it could be used anywhere from office to home to classroom. So I know all of us have the itch to do spring organizing and cleaning. So today we're tackling an organizational DIY, and it turned out better than I thought it would. Now let's start out with what I'm using. I picked this up at the Dollar Tree. I know not every Dollar Tree is going to carry these. I have a Dollar Tree Plus, but I'm sure that you can find very similar items at places like Walmart in their unfinished wood department, at craft stores like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, you name it. But I would also recommend checking out those thrift stores because you can find those all day long there. Now you are going to need some painter's tape. I picked mine up at Dollar Tree, and word to the wise, I would do this in the opposite way that I am doing it. So this was a prototype. I have to mass produce a few of these for our church, and so I needed to kind of come up with a design to see if that's what they were looking for. So I would recommend actually using that painter's tape along the very bottom and doing it sort of in the reverse order that I did. So I started out with my painter's tape, sectioning off the bottom part that I'm going to stain. Now this is my favorite wood stain currently. I'll have it in the description so you can look it up. I bought it at Home Depot and I'm loving it on all kinds of things. So my idea was to give this a two-tone look and do a stain on the bottom and then to do a paint on the top portion. Now I did run into a little bit of a snag or a problem, so I'll walk you through how to get through that. For the first step, you're just going to want to go ahead and stain or paint the bottom portion below the painter's tape. And again, I would recommend actually doing this project in reverse, and you'll understand that as soon as we get to our next step. Now, I did take the chance to go ahead and stain the bottom piece. I do want these to look finished and like they were purchased in the store as is, not like something I DIY'd. And I decided to combo that paint stain with a black paint. It's something I had on hand. It's super neutral and I think it would go really well with what we're doing. And since my stain is still drying, I decided to start with painting the inside of the container first. And you could certainly use any color of paint or stain that you have on hand or anything to go with your decor. You may even have a piece like this hanging around the house that you want to give a facelift to. So always keep those eyes open for things you have on hand that you can change up and give an entirely new look to. So once I was done painting the inside, I decided to go ahead and remove this painter's tape. Now, what I would have done is tape off the bottom. Follow me here for a second. I'm walking you through the best way to do this, and cover the portion where our stain is with the painter's tape. That's going to give you your line. I would have painted it out and then removed the painter's tape and done the stain. This way I had a little bit more to do. I reused my painter's tape to cover the stained portion before going back to paint that section above the stained area, and could have just cut out that step entirely if I had just done the painter's tape on the bottom to begin with, but I did it this way nevertheless, and it did work out just fine. Now, I will say that having the painter's tape on over the stain was super helpful when it came to painting, and I don't think is as necessary if you're staining up against a paint. Feel like that's a little bit more forgiving. So I was trying to save you guys a step once I figured out my own faux pas, but I went ahead and finished painting out the piece. Now, word to the wise, I'm going to cover this again here in a second, but oh my gosh, isn't this gratifying? As you pull off the tape and you see that nice clean edge, here is a problem I ran into. These pieces were glued together and poorly. So what I decided to do to remedy the problem is take some paint very close to my stain's color. This is one I had on hand. It is called Cinnamon by Folk Art, and I watered it down. This is actually much less watered down than it was originally. And then I just gave a coat of this watered down paint over top of the stain. Now the reason I did that is it's going to knock the color down to where I want it so that I can then go in with not watered down full strength paint and just kind of touch up like you would with your foundation or makeup sponge over any of the places where the glue had gotten out of whack or just too much and the stain was not taking. Now, something I did not share with you guys is that after the first coat of the black on these, I noticed a lot of splintering. This is balsa wood, it's super cheap, so I did take my sanding block, give them a quick sand, and then touch up those black areas where they needed to be. So save yourself that step as well and do any sanding before you even paint. Now this is what we're working with. Oh, I think this turned out so nice. Does look like it's a lot more high-end than something you can get at a Dollar Tree. Now we're going to work on styling it. So for this, I really want it to serve multi-purpose. And one of those purposes that I need it to serve is a centerpiece. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of floral foam from the Dollar Tree and cut off a section that is going to fit in the section in the front. Now you could use this in the back. When I am working with floral foam and hot glue, I like to keep the plastic on. It just kind of has been helpful to me to adhere other things to floral foam. Now I had some of this burlap ribbon on hand. I just kind of want to disguise the floral foam. I want it to be removable and movable, serving multiple purposes. So for this, I didn't want you to look down into it and see floral foam. You could cover this with anything you wanted to. You could certainly use fabric or ribbon. I even thought duct tape, anything like that that would just make it a solid color would be a good idea. So I just used my hot glue gun to carefully hot glue on my burlap ribbon. I think that that works well with doing what we're going to do with this, and that is that this is going to be our floral arrangement in our multi-use organizer. Now, I wanted this to serve a few purposes. I need it to hold napkins, I need it to hold pens, and I need it to serve as a centerpiece. So that's why we're doing this with the floral portion. Now, before we get to the floral portion, I'm letting the hot glue set up and dry. I decided to personalize these with a very simple label. I just printed out students on my Cricut, and then I think that goes really well. I tried to line up the bottom of the T to where the color changes from the wood tone to the black. I think it looks very nice and modern. Now, if you work in an office, you could definitely do their logo here. Now, I also think these would be wonderful gifts for the teachers in your life. The end of the year is coming up, and the beginning of the school year will be here before we know it. We've also got Mother's and Father's Day coming up. I think these are great for anyone who works in an office. And the reason I want to show you guys the little floral block moving around is that these are so versatile. You can move those so that you can put your pens in a certain location. You can use them to put out different cards that you need to display. And if this is something you're going to see all year round, you could even switch out these floral blocks and have one for Christmas and different seasons throughout the year. I'm definitely thinking ahead when it comes to these. So I decided to do succulents, something for every day for now. So I'm starting out with 2 succulents from the Dollar Tree. They were the clip style, so I pulled the clips off, went ahead and stabbed my foam to create a little hole, and then added a generous amount of hot glue to arrange my succulents and then hold them in place while they set up. Now, I think that that is a nice look, and I did want something small that I could move around, but I think it needed a little more, so I took some ferns from the Dollar Tree. I clipped off a couple of the different leaves and just added them to the back on either side. I think that that gives it a really nice full and more finished look. Now, when it comes to function, I wanted to give you guys an option for pen storage. So my husband's actually going to be doing wood pieces for these, but the Dollar Tree does sell these little cups in a 6-pack. You could fill them with some glass beads and have a great little organization area for your pens if you're using these in an office. All totaled up, these cost less than $10 a piece to make, and that includes things like the succulents and the foam and the entire wood organizer. It doesn't include things I already had, like paint and that burlap ribbon or glue sticks, but I think that this is a great functional little piece, especially if you need to potentially have more than one of them. You could easily mass produce these at an affordable price point. Another idea I had is I thought these would be really nice for beauty products. You could definitely use it to store a lot of your items. Get some of those cups that I mentioned for the pens and use those for things like eyeliners and lip liners. You could definitely fit eyeshadow palettes and lipsticks in these. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I think they look a lot higher end than something that was created using dollar store products. So how much do you think something like this would cost if you were to buy it in the store? And let me know how you'd use it in the comments below. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how I transformed that little piece. I think it turned out gorgeous. I'm really proud of it. I hope it's something that inspired you to tackle one of those organizational DIYs in your life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back very soon.